We are live. We are also direct. She leads, she sells with Barbara Daoust, who is a success coach who believes that CEOs, leaders, and entrepreneurs can achieve professional and personal success beyond their imaginations. She helps people expand their frequency to step onto a timeline where they are getting better results. She instigates and catalyzes exponential business growth, improvements in leadership, and building better teams, answers to procrastination, as she identifies the sabotaging patterns arresting development and growth. She leads, she sells. Welcome to Barbara Daoust. How are you doing coming from California?
Yes, thank you so
Speak to
much for
me.
that introduction, Jay. I need to bring you in my pocket everywhere.
Come on, I'm available. Just tell me the time. There's nothing between us apart from the 8-hour time difference. But apart from that, we're on the same page.
That's
Tell
great.
me, who's ideal for you, Barbara? Like, are we talking about, are they 7 figures, 6, like multiple 6? What stage?
It's mid-level is a good stage for me. But if I work with a CEO, I've worked with CEOs at Toyota, and they're managing over, millions, as well as many, many employees, versus my sweet spot, what I enjoy the most are entrepreneurs. And not necessarily startups, but those who are in the game and they're getting same level results and not really growing exponentially. And I show them how to get out of their way, basically stop procrastinating and get into bold action. Because I used to be a director in the entertainment business. I have a master's in directing, and I was
Oh,
an acting coach to celebrities. So
wow.
my forte is pulling performance out of people. Essentially, I can see in them what they can't see in themselves, and I believe in them and help them believe in themselves. So it's fascinating to see the results that they can get once they're in momentum, and that's what I encourage and help people to do.
Amazing, because the human mind can't tell the difference between what's imagined and what's real. And so I think
That's
when we
right.
step into version X, which is growing, which is courageous, then we step into that frequency and action's going to follow that, because it's like, yeah, the brain can't tell the difference.
Yeah, it's really the level of desire, right? And then the commitment, and then the ball gets rolling. So I have this program where people go after something they don't know how to do, because if you're going after something you already know how to do, you're just going to keep getting the same results, right? And aiming higher, aiming bigger, and just digging deeper into what really excites you and it scares you at the same time. But there's a level of stuckness because people are not committing to a decision. And once you commit to the decision, what happens is that within a couple of weeks, amazing, like some of the unimaginable starts to show up. But then what happens is people hit what's called a terror barrier, and they're up against that wall because change is occurring, and we don't like change, right? So we say we want to change, but it's very complicated to make decisions that create, radical change and shifting. So I help people do identity shifting. And I think with my past in, directing and creating a character and a role, identifying a future self. And what happens, of course, is the nervous system gets deregulated. And the paradigms, the old patterns, that's when they start to show up. They're going to play sneaky tricks on us until we have awareness around what they are. And one way to do that is to go after something you don't know how to do. And then that's when those little, I say, next level, new devil, and I help people identify that next level and new devil, and then aim, with the courage that it takes to get through the opposing vibrations. I call it the battle between the old self and the new self. And that ultimately in the body, it's causing friction that helps us, create a lot of anxiety. And then most people, instead of breaking through that barrier wall, they're on the edge of changing, but that hesitation kicks in. So I help people get through that hesitation. And then neuroscience is also discovering, Jay, that we don't want to necessarily regulate the nervous system back to the comfort zone. We want to create adaptive capacity. so that it means, you live with that anxiety until you go into repetition of the new pattern, the new idea, the new belief, and start really building, through takes some illogical behavior. And that's why I help people identify identity-based behaviors to change their habits and to really start to live from the future, bringing it into the present.
Wow. You know what, Barbara? So love speaking to experts, like real experts. Not, I read a book yesterday, expert, but experts where I can learn from their scars rather than their studies. Because too many people take these books and they
Yes,
don't embody these books.
that's exactly right. Yes,
Yeah. And so
that's right.
when we step into it, and that's why you're one of the best in the world in terms of getting the best, out of people.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
love to dig into this book. It's
Yes,
Yes, I
I
love the
work.
power of impossible goals. And in fact,
Yes.
Benjamin Hardy speaks about that in his newest book, The Science of Scaling. Impossible goals have fewer routes to
Hmm.
get there. Tell me, what are you digging into right now, books wise? And give me a couple of golden nuggets.
Well, I
From
love it. I love that you brought that up because I worked with Ben Hardy last year.
Wow,
I
amazing!
I I was in his mastermind group going after an impossible goal. And
Wow,
so, yeah, yeah. And so he challenged me to an impossible goal. And I've written programs. I have a program called, Create Your Future Self. And Ben wrote a book on, Be Your Future Self Now. It's an amazing book. So that's a book I would highly recommend. He also has a book on personality isn't permanent. And his next book after The Science of Scaling is Time is a Tool. So I would highly recommend that as well. So, Benjamin's work is along the lines of my work, going after the unknown, because as soon as we get into the how, that's when we start to justify, that's when we start to explain and rationalize. So if you hear yourself saying, but I don't have the money, and making excuses, of time and family is in the way, all of that, you're in a pattern of paradigms that are holding you in, what you already know. So I challenge people to really step outside the comfort zone. So for example, I worked with a 72-year-old woman who was a coach. She wanted to lose weight. Just definitely was not a impossible goal. And I probed a little bit and found out that she admired an 86-year-old bodybuilder. So I challenged her to a bodybuilding competition. And, because she knew how to hire a trainer, she knew how to go to the gym, she knew how to eat well, but she wasn't getting the result. So once she signed up, when you sign up, now it's a committed decision.
wow,
And when she signed up, she was in the gym at 5 a.m. every day. She can hold a plank longer than anybody in the gym.
wow.
And, she bought her pink fuchsia bikini, her tanning spray, and started becoming that version of herself. And same with writing a book. She wanted to write a book for 25 years, had been writing for 25 years, but it really wasn't that impossible goal because she knew how to write. She just wasn't an author that she wanted to be. So I
Mhm.
challenged her and said, well, what if you, invite 20 of your closest friends to your home in 3 months' time to listen to the first draft of your book? And she said, okay. And then I said, well, when are you sending out the invitations? She sent out the invitations. And 3 months later, I was in her living room when she was reading the first draft of her book.
Amazing.
It's really that commitment to that version because your personal habits, right, and behaviors are really creating your personal reality, which is your personality.
Yeah, of course, because Tony Robbins, I think he says, never leave the sight of a goal before making some sort of commitment to it. Make that happen right now. What do you say to people who are like, I've not got the money. I've not got the money. Like, what is that paradigm that's holding them back? Like, what's going on there?
Well, a lot of it is from programming. A lot of it is the family relationship to money, what they've been taught. And I pretty much encourage people through a lot of testimonials and results that I get that people who pay the money make back the money in the time that they're doing the program, which is just a 3-month program. And they're making not only what they invested, but they're 2xing, 3xing because we're going after exponential results. So when I can show people how that can be done, then they're more likely to invest. But the biggest thing, because what I've noticed, Jay, over time, from I work with lawyers, I work with therapists, I work with a lot of financial advisors and, and tradespeople from property managers to realtors. And what I've noticed, there's a common thread. And the common thread seems to be, highly professional, educated, creative individuals, very smart people with low self worth. And the basic thing is that it's self-image. So once people understand that you'll never outperform your self-image, you'll never outperform what you already know. And I have groups, and when you start hanging out with people who have different consciousness and different thinking than you, then you start to shift the thinking mind, right? Because that's our biggest power is to choose. And at the conscious level, we can accept, reject, or neglect our ideas, but we can also use our imagination to really originate new ideas. So I encourage people, what I'll do is I'll give them some homework and get them to be in their imaginations and get them excited about becoming more unlimited. And once people start to get emotionally involved, that's when they're more willing to take a bet on themselves. So I just really work on showing people how much I believe in them, having been a director, knowing that, people can develop and it's just really their choice and giving them the power to choose. I'm not somebody who wants to say, go borrow the money. It's like, it's your power of choice. And I want you to be committed and I want you to be all in.
Amazing. How do people find inspiration to go all in? I try and tie it into the core emotional driver. Someone might say, hey, I want to make $20,000. Oh, okay, or $50,000. Then we go, why? Because I'm going to be able to quit my job. Okay, why is that important? So I can spend some more time with my daughter. Why is that important? Well, my
Yeah.
daughter doesn't recognize me and I'm fear I might lose her. So by tapping into the core emotional driver, that's what's worked for me. How about yourself in terms of being able to affect change?
I love that. I mean, so that's the 7 levels deep, right? Using the why questions to get to really the core. I love that. And I implement that when people decide, make a decision about what their goal is or what they're going to aim for to make sure that, people have an understanding that it's not just the money that they're after, right? It's because it's not the thing we want, it's the feelings that that thing brings us. So I help people to identify, what they might be dreaming of and then why they want that, what's important. So I go and I just dig deeper with those questions when I'm on a call with them. What is important, why it's important, keep going like you said. But then I help them identify what might be blocking, what might be in their way. And then they come up with pretty much, either not knowing or I can help them identify a little bit further. And then I just reflect back to them everything that they've shared with me and ask them if they would be interested in changing and, really unleashing the potential. And
Wow.
when they say yes, then that's when I can say, well, this is, what I have to offer you. Are you interested? And once they say they're interested, then I can, lay it out. And then there are, usually um, within the first call saying I'm in, or it might take a second call and I will deliver to them a video to help inspire them on way because some people think they want something and end up not, really, really wanting it. Like I worked with one person who was an HR director and her goal was to become, she was a managing director, but she wanted to be promoted. She only had 8 people under her, but she wanted to have 200 people in her business. But by the 7th meeting, she said, that's not what I really want. And I said, so what do you really want? Because that's what we question. Once we think we're on a treadmill of what I call shell identity. We think we should do this. We think we should be this. Our parents want us to do this. Our husband, wives want us, our children, and then when we get really deep and honest with ourselves, she came back and she said, I want a vineyard in Tuscany.
Wow.
So, once she declared that, kid you not, within 1 week, we found a property for her in Tuscany. It was a 15-bedroom hotel.
Wow.
On a vineyard that was for sale for $350,000.
Wow.
And then within a week of that, a friend of hers owned a private jet and said, and I'll fly you to see the property.
Wow.
And then within a week of that, I mean, things started to really get exciting very, very quickly. It's just more a matter of, how badly do you want it? Because once it starts coming in, right? Then you've got to decide, are you going? Are you going for it? Are you building the momentum, and are you going to stay in it to win it? You know, and but what happens too is then that fear barrier, that edge kicks in, and you get a whole lot more clarity. I worked with like an 18, he was 19, and within the year he bought his first home. And I asked him as well, why is it important to you? Why is it important to you? And he's 19 years old, and he eventually got to, because I want to leave a legacy for my grandchildren. So, it's really that awareness needs to grow, right? And so growing it is part of the initial conversation, is growing that awareness.
Amazing. Oh, thank you for sharing and laying that out. How do you get visible? You got a stunning website.
Thank
Oh,
you.
you're a great speaker, clearly distinguished.
Thank you.
Yeah. You do workshops, you're doing calls, you're offline, mingling in Hollywood. Like, what's the vibe?
Yes, I do, networking, but mostly speaking.
Okay.
And because as a speaker, you become the expert in the room.
Wow.
It's a lot easier, to be the expert and then do follow up with people, right?
Wow.
And then follow, because what I notice with a lot of networking situations is, what do people do, right? They give you the card
Yep.
and say follow up, and then you follow up and crickets.
Mm.
So, and but I don't stop doing the networking, because there's always the opportunity that one is going to make a difference. I was on a networking call online, and this one woman said, I'd like to introduce you to my boss, because my mentor was Bob Proctor for 10 years. And she said, my boss loves Bob Proctor. And I said, I'd love to meet him, but most people never follow through. But she followed through. And then I got a text, and she said, would you like to meet my boss, John Shin? And I was like, oh, okay, John Shin. And John Shin happens to be the executive producer on the movie Think and Grow Rich.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. And so it was like, okay, yes, I'm all in. Met with him, and then he did a world tour with the movie before COVID, but he's planning another movie and has asked me to speak on the world tour. That all came from just one online conversation for 10
Ooh,
minutes.
that is perfect.
You never know.
No, it's true. I believe in energies, and
That's right.
limitless energy is at the top of the scale. At the bottom, there's fear. Then we
Yes.
move up to service, where you do things. But I think joy, when you're doing things with joy, it's another level of magnetism, and it
That's
shows
right.
alignment. And when you're in limitless power, you're never going to outsell your frequency.
That's right.
If you're in fear, you're not going to be able to sell prosperity in that regard, because energy never lies in that regard. So
Yes. Yes. But I also tell people to be messy. It's okay.
100%. Yeah.
Right? Like, design your messy, because if you design your messy, you have a modicum of control. Yeah, I remember this was years back, working with a big CEO on his speaking presentation. He was speaking in front of 5,000 people,
Yeah.
and I didn't own a business suit, so I borrowed my neighbor's business suit. And I also was wearing her shoes, because I had never worn, I was in the entertainment business for such a
Oh,
long
wow.
time.
Yeah.
You don't wear pumps on set, and you don't wear business clothes on set.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then when I went to meet him, because they weren't really my shoes, I tripped on an electrical cord and fell flat on his face. But it was the best icebreaker ever. And we got along famously after that, because I didn't have to, I was pretending that I was more than I was on some level. But once the messy was there in the room, the vulnerability was what created the connection. And then he ended up, improving his presentation greatly.
Wow.
And I also
Well,
say
okay.
seek failure, seek failure. Well, I got my master's in directing at UCLA. My whole intention was to allow myself to make mistakes and fail. And as a result of that, on the other side of that was the identity shift that the person that I had to meet that I didn't know was there.
Amazing. You're an author. Where's your book?
So you can get it on Kindle version on Amazon right now.
Amazing. And what's that called?
It's called True Love, True Self, A Journey to Self-Love.
Amazing. And how can I get in contact with you, Barbara?
Well, they can go on my website, which is www.barbaradaoust.com. They can also download, I have on the codetosuccess.com, I have a template where people can fill out a life vision. So it's an empty template, but they can also do what is called a presupposing question. So I help people get more embodiment, and they have to fill out imagery, what they hear, using their 5 physical senses, as well as what's called a presupposing question. And the presupposing question, neuroscience is showing more and more, ask the question why and don't answer it, because the brain is a search engine and it will start looking for the answer.
Wow. Say that again, please.
It's www.thecodetosuccess.com.
Okay. And you mentioned something about the brain being the search engine. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's where you do what's called a presupposing question. And in the template, it's, it has a place where you can be asking. So you might ask, like, why am I so successful? Why am I attracting ideal clients? Why am I, so prosperous? And you just stack these why questions without using your conscious mind to give an answer, because you're going to be answering with the mind you already have,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So let the brain go searching for you. Most people are asking, why can't I? Not a good question.
100%. Last question. How does someone find what's aligned for them? I know I help people. I use the Ikigai to help people find alignment. What tool do you use they've got 4 strategies to pick the best aligned strategy. Like, what do you use?
So I help people identify, within like 3 months, 90 days, what can be their main focus, so that they start to understand that it's choosing, and that when you choose, things will start to shift and change, and you'll know more about yourself as you choose. And that could just be like, I worked with a lawyer who was fired, and the main focus was self-care. But then as her self-care improved, then she, set the intention she wanted to do a trial case, which she had never done. Now, it didn't mean she wanted to become a trial attorney. It was just a curiosity. And so once she aimed in that direction and focused, she had an opportunity to be a bench lawyer. And then the trial attorney that she was assisting fell out and she became a trial attorney. And within a couple of years, she had her own law firm. Did she know when she started that she wanted her own law firm? No, but I helped her to get into a lane and explore through curiosity. And then she started working with a company on timeshares. And it was a very, very high-end law firm where she was paid very well. And because of that one client, she was able to, now she's the #1 timeshare lawyer in the country.
Wow.
But that just started with her coming in going, I'm lost.
Wow. Beautiful. Barbara, I'm found in terms of a beautiful soul who's serving prodigiously.
Thank you.
This has been the best episode. I've done 150. This has been the best episode. Lots of replay value inside here. I appreciate you.
Well, you're pretty amazing yourself.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
Yeah. I'm looking in the mirror.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. God bless you, Barbara. God bless the United States of America. She leads, she sells. Barbara Daoust in the studio. Peace. That's it. That's the #1 episode.